Hey, everyone. You sent us this article, and it really got us talking. It's about a new AI startup, Mechanize.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's definitely stirring things up online. You see reactions from, well, almost panic, like the article says, to maybe more cautious curiosity.
Yeah, it's hitting a nerve for sure.
So our plan here is to, unpack this. What's Mechanize actually trying to do? Why do they think it's a good idea?
Mm.
And why all these strong reactions?
Right. Try and get a clear picture from the article and the online chatter.
Exactly. So you can get the core issues quickly. We've got the launch article, the social media stuff. Let's just dive in.
Sounds good. And honestly, this feels like, well, more than just another small step for AI. Their ambitions seem huge.
Okay, let's get down to brass tacks then.
Yeah.
What is Mechanize trying to achieve? What's the big headline goal?
So their stated aim, pretty clearly in the article, is full automation of the economy.
Wow. Okay, full automation.
Yep. They're basically talking about a future where AI handles, well, most labor jobs.
Most labor jobs. That's a really sweeping vision.
It is. It's disruption on a massive scale, potentially.
Full automation, that sounds huge. How do they even propose to do that? It's not just like clipping a switch, is it?
No, definitely not. According to their plan, anyway. They talk about building virtual work environments.
Virtual work environments, like simulations.
Exactly. Simulations, benchmarks, loads of training data. The idea is to create these like digital sandboxes where AI agents can learn jobs.
Oh, okay.
And what's really interesting is the focus on simulating real-world work, the complexity.
So not just simple stuff.
Right. They're talking about tasks needing computers, long-term projects where success isn't even clear-cut, coordination between agents, handling interruptions, the messy reality of a lot of jobs. They want to simulate that.
Okay, so this isn't just like robots screwing bolts onto a car frame. We're talking AI potentially doing project management, customer service, maybe even creative work, but all simulated.
That seems to be the direction, yeah. It's a much broader scope than, say, current chat bots or image generators.
Right. And why? What's their main argument for doing this? The
Yeah.
why behind it all?
Well, their core argument is all about economics, potential economic value. They argue that automating these ordinary labor tasks.
Ordinary tasks, meaning not just the high-flying intellectual stuff.
Exactly. Automating the bulk of everyday work, they think, will unlock the most significant value from AI, far more than just automating niche expert tasks.
Okay, and what's the payoff they see?
They're talking explosive economic growth, leading to abundance.
Abundance.
Yeah, higher living standards, maybe completely new kinds of goods and services we can't even imagine now.
So they put numbers on that.
They do. The article mentions the figures they cite, something like $18 trillion spent annually on human labor just in the U.S.
18 trillion, just the U.S.
Yep. And globally, they estimate it's around $60 trillion a year.
Wow. 60 trillion globally. Okay, I can see why automating even a fraction of that would seem transformative from their perspective.
It puts the scale of their ambition into context, doesn't it?
It really does. But, the article does add that crucial caveat. These are just claims at this point.
Absolutely. Very much claims. The potential impact is massive, yes, but whether they can actually achieve it and what the real-world effects would be, that's all highly speculative right now.
Sure. But understanding that $60 trillion figure helps understand their motivation, I guess.
Definitely. That's the prize they're aiming for.
Now, the article also touched on why now. Why do they think this approach is needed? Something about limitations in current AI.
Yeah, they position their work as addressing key shortcomings in today's AI models, stuff that stops current AI from really automating labor effectively.
Like what, specifically?
Well, they mentioned things like reliability issues, AI not always being dependable, problems with robust long context capabilities. Basically, AI struggling to handle long complex tasks without losing the plot.
Right, keeping track over time.
Exactly, and also difficulties with agency, AI taking initiative, and multimodality, handling different types of information, and crucially, long-term planning.
So the AI we have now is maybe good at specific short-term things, but it's too brittle, too easily sidetracked for complex real-world jobs. Is that their point?
That seems to be the core of it, yeah. They think you need to overcome these limits to get to widespread automation, and these virtual training grounds are their proposed solution.
Which brings us neatly to the reactions. The article calls it panic mode online. What did people actually say?
Well, yeah, panic mode might not be far off for some reactions on X, formerly Twitter. A lot of strong feelings, mostly negative, it seems.
Understandable, I suppose.
There's definitely a strong current of anxiety there. What does this mean for jobs, for society?
The article quotes someone named Louis Bose. What was their take?
Yeah, Lewis Bose put it very bluntly. Something like, just because you can do something, it doesn't mean you should.
Hmm. Straight to the ethics of it.
Pretty much. And ending with, I don't think this will be good for humanity. It cuts right to the core societal worry, doesn't it? Regardless of the tech.
Yeah, that captures a common fear, I imagine. Then there was Adam Skoll, mentioned with a more detailed question.
Right. Adam Skoll dug a bit deeper, asking about the really big risks. He asked if Mechanize wasn't worried about X risk, existential risk.
Ah, the long-term safety concerns.
Exactly. Or, do they think AI progress will just sort of solve those risks along the way? Or maybe they just have a totally different way of thinking about risk versus progress.
So really probing their underlying philosophy on safety and potential downsides.
Yeah, it shows a deeper concern about not just jobs, but the fundamental trajectory and potential dangers.
Okay, so definitely some significant anxiety out there. But it wasn't all negative, was it? The article mentioned a counterpoint.
That's right. There was a more positive or maybe nuanced take from Sian O. Haidartai.
Okay, what was their perspective?
They suggested that focusing on automating specific labor tasks might actually be a good thing in a way.
How so?
Because it could be seen as shifting focus away from building artificial general intelligence or superintelligence, the kind of all-powerful AI that many researchers think poses the biggest risks.
Ah, interesting. So frame it as specialization instead of going for godlike AI, making it more narrow and maybe less dangerous.
That's the interpretation, yeah. It suggests this path, automating specific work, might be less risky than the quest for, unbounded intelligence.
That's a really important counter perspective. It changes the conversation from just jobs are doomed to what kind of powerful AI are we building?
Precisely. It introduces that nuance. Maybe not all advanced AI development is equally worrying. Maybe focusing on practical tasks is actually a more controlled path. It adds a crucial layer to the whole debate.
Okay. Now, towards the end, the article makes a pretty key point that how Mechanize actually intends to pull all this off.
Yeah.
Well, it's not exactly clear.
Yeah, that's a big takeaway.
What does that lack of detail tell you?
Well, it suggests that right now, this is maybe more of a grand vision statement, a declaration of intent, rather than a detailed technical roadmap.
So it's big ambition, but the how-to is still fuzzy.
Pretty much. I mean, the concept of these complex work simulations is fascinating, right? But the actual mechanics of capturing all the nuance of human work, translating that into effective AI training, that's incredibly challenging.
The devil's in the details, as they say.
Exactly. There's still a lot of uncertainty about how feasible this really is in practice. It definitely invites more scrutiny down the line.
Okay, let's try and sum this up for everyone listening. We've got this new AI startup, Mechanize. They've made a big splash announcing a goal of full economic automation.
Replacing labor jobs with AI via these sophisticated simulations.
Right, and their argument is basically economic tapping into that massive global spending on labor could create, well, unprecedented growth and abundance.
They argued their approach tackles limitations in current AI reliability, long-term planning, that sort of thing.
But this has, understandably, caused a lot of concern online. Worries about jobs, society, even existential risk.
Though there is that counter viewpoint, suggesting this focus on specific tasks might be less risky than chasing general superintelligence.
And critically, the nitty-gritty technical details seem to be somewhat vague at this point.
Definitely. So it's really a snapshot, isn't it? A very ambitious company, a fast-moving field, and a whole spectrum of reactions reflecting some pretty deep questions about our future.
Absolutely. So thinking about all this, the potential economic shifts, the societal changes we've touched on, here's something for you listening to maybe chew on. What parts of human work do you think will be the hardest to automate fully? What makes certain human skills or roles resilient, even in the face of AI like Mechanize envisions?
Yeah, considering all these different viewpoints, the worries, the optimism.
What's uniquely human, perhaps, is worth thinking about, especially as these conversations about the future of work keep evolving.